I never thought a single conversation could unravel everything I had built, everything I had believed in, and everything I thought marriage meant. That's exactly what happened the day my wife, Amara, casually mentioned she wanted closure with her ex. The words hit me like a cold slap across the face, the kind of revelation that twists your stomach and makes your mind race with questions. You don't want the answers to dot, it started innocuously enough. We were sitting on the couch after dinner, the soft hum of the evening around us. Amara had been unusually quiet all day, scrolling through her phone more than usual. I asked her if something was wrong. She looked at me with that familiar half smile, the one that always made me believe she was being playful, and said, "I just need closure with my ex. To tie up loose ends." I froze, the words sinking in slowly. "Closure?" I asked, trying to mask the shock in my voice. "Amara, why would you need that now?" She shrugged, brushing it off casually. "It's not a big deal. I just want to make peace with the past before we move on completely." I felt the blood drain from my face. Move on? As if our marriage wasn't enough. As if our vows, our life, our promises could be dismissed with a simple phrase. I stayed silent for a moment, collecting my thoughts. Anger surged, but beneath it was a growing realization. This wasn't about closure for her. It was about her inability to fully commit to the life we had built together. I could have confronted her in anger, shouted or stormed out, but I had something far more satisfying in mind. I would show her in no uncertain terms that her actions had consequences, and I would do it on the day she expected security, love, and celebration. Our wedding anniversary, the planning began immediately, silently and meticulously. I didn't tell her a thing. Instead of reacting with emotional outbursts, I organized a surprise of my own. The invitations for our anniversary celebration had already been sent to our closest friends and family, promising a romantic evening full of love and reflection. But I knew I had to change the focus entirely. This was no longer a celebration of us, it would be a reckoning. The day arrived. Amara was dressed elegantly, expecting the usual smiles, speeches, and toasts. She had no idea that the centerpiece of the evening would be not joy, but truth. As our friends and family arrived, I welcomed them warmly, all while Amara floated through the room, blissfully unaware that the night would soon shatter her composure completely. We sat down for dinner. I waited for the right moment, letting the initial chatter and laughter fill the room. Then I stood, clearing my throat. The room quieted immediately, and all eyes turned toward me. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began, my voice calm but steady. "We've gathered to celebrate a milestone in our lives. But before we do, there's something important that must be addressed." Amara's brow furrowed slightly, confusion crossing her face. She tilted her head, as if waiting for a joke, a playful comment, or a light-hearted twist. I let the suspense stretch, letting the weight of my words hang in the air. "You see," I continued, "marriage is built on trust, loyalty, and commitment. And when one of these elements is questioned, the foundation cracks. Tonight, I learned something very important, something that changes everything." She opened her mouth, trying to interrupt, but I held up a hand. "No, let me finish. Amara, you told me recently that you wanted closure with your ex. A past you thought you had moved on from. A person you believed you needed to revisit before truly embracing the present. That is not just a request. That is a betrayal." The room grew silent. Our friends exchanged glances, realizing that this wasn't a playful toast or a sentimental speech. Something serious, something monumental was unfolding. "And so," I said, my tone deliberate, "since the very foundation of our marriage has been questioned tonight, I have decided not to celebrate it, not to honor it, not to pretend that everything is fine." I paused, letting the suspense deepen. Instead of renewing our vows or celebrating our anniversary, I hereby officially close our wedding. Effective immediately, gasps filled the room. Amara's face turned pale, her hand flying to her mouth in disbelief. "What are you saying?" she stammered. I smiled faintly, a calm, controlled smile that only made the moment more devastating. "I am saying that if your heart is elsewhere, if your commitment is divided, then this marriage cannot continue as if nothing has happened. I am ending it. Right here. Right now." The chaos erupted instantly. Our friends and family were shocked, some whispering, others wide-eyed with disbelief. Amara tried to protest, to argue, to explain, but the power of the moment was entirely mine. I wasn't angry. I wasn't desperate. I was composed, and that composure amplified the impact of my words. "You thought closure with your ex was harmless," I said softly, letting the words slice through the room. "But closure comes at a cost. And tonight you see exactly what that cost is." Amara's face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and for the first time, she realized the full magnitude of her choices. Her past, her desires, her betrayal all converged in a moment she could not control. A moment that exposed her completely. Some guests tried to mediate, but I silenced them with a glance. This was not about debate or negotiation. This was about consequence, about integrity, about showing that actions, even ones she thought were harmless, have irreversible effects stop by the end of the evening. Amara was speechless, the chaos of emotions evident in every gesture, every quivering breath. Our anniversary, meant to be a celebration, had become the stage for a savage reckoning, one she would never forget. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to humiliate her publicly beyond the truth itself. The act of closing our wedding, decisively and in front of witnesses, was enough. In the days and weeks that followed, the reality of that night lingered. Amara reached out, her messages filled with regret, apology, and disbelief. But I had already taken control. The balance of power had shifted. I had shown, without aggression or dramatics, that betrayal, even hinted or emotional, carries consequences. I reflected often on that night. The savage decision to close our wedding instead of allowing the cycle of deceit to continue was not born of anger, but of clarity. It was a demonstration that trust, loyalty, and respect are not negotiable, and that consequences can be delivered with precision, dignity, and impact far greater than any shouting or dramatics could achieve. That night remains etched in my memory. The chaos that ensued, the shock on Amara's face, and the stunned silence of our friends and family, these were the echoes of a truth she could no longer ignore. And for me, it was the moment I reclaimed agency over my life, my dignity, and my future. Marriage, I realized, is not just about love or promises. It is about choices. And when those choices betray the foundation of commitment, the response must be decisive. Sometimes the most savage form of justice isn't violence or humiliation, it is clarity, precision, and the courage to end what cannot continue. That night, I did just that. I closed our wedding, and in doing so, I shook everything she thought she controlled, leaving a lesson that would last far longer than any fleeting anger or resentment. Betrayal has consequences, and sometimes the most savage way to deliver them is to act with unflinching resolve and undeniable truth.